Chip, thanks for joining us today on Salad's AI Innovators podcast. We're super excited to learn more about you and what you're doing in the AI space. So if you can give us a quick introduction, a little bit of background and what you're working on, that'd be great.
Yeah, awesome to be here, Derek. Okay, so I'm Chip Ernst. I'm the CEO of Roli. Me and my co-founder, Scott Jones, started this company a couple years ago. We're both career-long enterprise guys. I've been on the commercial side, working with engineers and tech teams, and largely on the selling and operations side into large enterprise and the mid-size enterprise and startups. My co-founder, Scott, is a very similar profile. Started out with big enterprise type companies on the engineering dev side. Introduced virtualization into one of his companies. That was Fidelity Labs. He went on to be an architect and a senior engineer in a lot of companies, and including a bunch of startups, where he knew what the enterprise requirements were and also understood the time constraints that most engineers have, most teams have. You can't always do it the way you want to do it, but it's got to be done to exacting standards in the enterprise. And it's kind of a chore, right? When every time you have a new project come up and you've got to build a back end, and it's got to be a cloud native app, because everything is these days. And you've got the security requirements, how you integrate with other applications and the rest of the environment, how the teams can work with your technologies. And again and again and again, you're building these environments. And the question eventually is, can you do it smarter? And try to find those opportunities where you can either bring something that's actually clean sheet, fresh, new, or kind of a modern interpretation of older techniques that didn't make sense for a while. And so examples of this would be database technology and storage of data, and that's been a large part of my career. How companies manage data, because you could consider that's the crown jewels of any company is their data. And we've spent billions and decades learning how to do different types of data structures and databases and frameworks and platforms that'll help us work with this types of data and integrate this type of data and get quick access to it with low latencies or have lots of capacities. And an example of things that were happening, many decades ago, before we had this notion of a database, would be the idea of, say, embedding the data structures within the application itself. And that's something that was happening a long time ago, but we kind of forgot the art as we specialized data companies that taught us how to use their technologies and showed us how we could integrate with a certain data structure, and that became the rigor, the fashion. That's how we just did things. But lo and behold, there's things like embedding key value stores. Facebook has been doing this with RocksDB for 14 years now. We actually take the data structure and embed it in the application. That's a key value in this case. It's hard to do. It's hard to tune. It's hard to optimize. And we really didn't need to look at that level of efficiency for a while because we were focused on other parts of the IT universe. Today, if you're writing an app and you're trying to get efficiency and performance, you might wonder if that's worth revisiting, that type of technology into the app itself to have it sort of durable, sort of a memory state within the app itself. And of course, it's possible. And I'm kind of foreshadowing something that we've done with our technology with Roli, where it's an innovation because you don't see this happening much, but it's not like we invented it. And it's been around for a long time. We've made it easy. We've made it so that somebody doesn't have to have the expertise to know how to do that type of tuning and integration at the low level of code.
What would you guys say, for ML ops engineers is the core problem you guys are solving?
Yeah. Okay. So shift gears here. So the way I look at this being as much of an impacted, victim even of the events that have unfolded the last couple of years. It affected most of us in IT that maybe weren't in the data science field, where they might have seen this coming and kind of understood the state of art, and certainly for proprietary models, any data scientist is a true expert of how these technologies have been evolving. But
Mm-hmm.
overnight, we all were confronted when OpenAI released ChatGPT and realized that this was democratized way faster than we had ever thought. And I think I speak for many of us in the industry, whatever capacity you're in, that suddenly these AI technologies are easily accessible. So accessible that every single one of us could sit down and query with a prompt to this incredible AI, large language model, a foundation model, publicly available, easily accessible. And millions of us did this, right? And I just read a LinkedIn posting a few days ago of some entrepreneurial young person that learned how to prompt engineer through their web browser and realized there was a bit of a vacuum in the market for companies looking to adopt these new technologies, and started approaching companies and started building their own business, selling their self-taught prompting skills to companies that wanted some sort of savvy, state-of-the-art new technology like a chatbot, and then
Okay.
successfully sold projects, selling into small business. And I think that's an example at one end of the extreme anyhow of what we've seen in these last 18, 24 months of startups and people coming from outside of the space, seizing this unique once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to bring value somehow and help companies and people solve these problems. The question is, though, does that mean a person at the keyboard who can cleverly prompt an LLM, the person who is best suited to help an organization, it's mid-sized enterprise, integrate a state-of-the-art application into what we all know is a very complex environment, right? Enterprises, even small ones, will have dozens of applications, especially if you include the types of things that sales and marketing teams are using. You can quickly get up to 30, 40, 50 applications, and a mid-sized company can have hundreds. Whenever you introduce a new application, you have to consider the security, the integration, the management and ongoing support of that technology. And I think we've all been lulled into the sense that this can be very, very, very easy to leverage this newly democratized type of technology. But it isn't. And it isn't anything really new. The AI is new. But the
Mm-hmm.
idea of adding intelligence or some sort of clever process to a business application is not new. We've been doing this for decades, and it's never been easy. And they're all unique. Right? So how you implement and manage a technology is, and always has been, very complex. And we think
Sure.
that is where we are today, which hasn't changed. There's a very, very real and very traditional bar of excellence and rigor that has to be accepted and applied to do it correctly.
Can you give me an example, a use case of, for instance, a customer that would come to you guys, how they would use Raleigh and integrate it
Right.
to improve kind of a business outcome? Like, let's get super practical.
Yeah. All right. So I've been talking about the big picture about how this is complex stuff. It's an enterprise app at the end of the day, and it just has this new component of some intelligence that we're trying to integrate in. It could be a machine learning algorithm, could be a
Mm-hmm.
robotic process, it could be a proprietary model, and certainly a foundation LLM, which is sort of the star child of the last year or two. Our argument is that this is another very complex cloud application. And if you look at any cloud application, and let's say you're a mid-sized enterprise and you want to do this to your corporate standards, you're probably going to have a few engineers working on it, probably have some sort of VP or CTOs overseeing this initiative. You're probably using several, maybe 6, 7, 8 different offerings from one of the major cloud vendors. It's very complex. There's hallucinations, there's errors. A human has to be involved because it's another process. If we want to add we can call it an agent or a GPT or some sort of use case type service for marketing or for finance or legal. Because what we're saying is you're going to build this new cloud environment with a and you're going to integrate with your front end and your role-based access controls and your OAuth and your data integrations. And yet what you're trying to achieve is you're trying to get the benefit of some prompts that you know work because you've done it on your laptop, and you know that these 7 or 8 prompts can be validated, and you can use this model, you can use that model, you can have a failover model, you have different token costs, you have different latency requirements, so you might chain and you might do something compound. Not so simple anymore, right? And but it's all possible. So this is what we're doing, right? We're solving all the cloud engineering part to make it very, very simple for a developer. And I'm not suggesting we're taking it to this extreme of making it drag and drop simple because, and I'm referring to no code or low code, because a true enterprise is going to have a lot of challenges integrating effectively and adapting to their existing processes and troubleshooting that. They need to have some sort of code interface. So we're very pro code. We're believing that TypeScript, a strongly typed coding language, to get slightly technical here, is pretty much the norm in any modern web app, is what an enterprise team would expect and require to be able to make sure this stuff works. So if you can use the right types of familiarity that enterprise teams expect, operate the way they would expect in terms of security and just operational management, but make it super easy. And this is what we're doing. So you asked me like who we're doing this for. So one example is a company that has an AI solution. They're offering this to, they're called CarTech IQ. They're offering this to master service organizations and automotive tools support companies, service companies that make like devices that plug in through OBD ports into cars, and global service chains that people can make an appointment for to take their car in, even dealerships, places that you can expect will have a professional service for automobiles. And these guys are offering an AI intelligent service that basically plugs in and gives an AI supported response that a mechanic can use to make the right choices to quickly resolve any problem with the car. So you can imagine that as like a great specialized use case of AI. And there's probably 1,000 companies like that, either trying to offer a solution or companies that have an in-house idea of something similar where they're specialized in the use of AI for some sort of business problem. Well, that alone is enough for a startup right there, CarTech IQ. But any time you're solving that type of logic problem, how to apply these LLMs and apply proprietary models, apply this sort of machine learning, that's enough right there, right? So what we're saying to a company like that is let us do the rest. Let us do the cloud engineering part and make it super simple for you so that there's no boilerplate, there's no scaffolding. It's as easy as a boot camp developer could hope for, but it's what the senior engineers are going to respect because they're going to look at the quality of the API and understand that what's being served out of Roli is the best that somebody could hope to build if they had the right time and the right runway. And that's what we've done. We've built it right. It's deep, it's robust, and it's very easy to use. And so a company that has an idea for an AI product or to sell as their own offering or to integrate into their own company, this is the quick, easy way to do it to the highest possible standard so that that it'll be something you can maintain. You can troubleshoot it. It'll be integrated.
Got it. It sounds like conversational chatbots is also something you guys are focused on or facilitating. Talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, I would say that's a Gen 1 type solution. We've seen a lot of that in the last year or so. There's an assumption a lot of people have that they will get the quality response out of an LLM that is adequate for their business. And I think people have learned that that's not always true, that there's either some control that needs to be done, some validation, make sure that the hallucination or an error isn't happening. And so the idea of a chatbot is great, and I know they're immensely helpful to many companies. Personally, we think that in the enterprise, there'll be a lot more process enhancements as opposed to chatbots, where it's something you won't even see. It'll be a validation of a type of data or a type of query that needs to happen, or It'll be several steps in a workflow. The person needs, in fact, maybe it will be presented as sort of response to it, but not what people are thinking of, like this bubble that shows up on the window, and it's a conversation with a bubble. And the reason why I think this is significant is that it allows there to be human in the loop. It's not just assuming that the response is ready for global distribution to the public or to your paying customers. It's assuming that a human is probably going to validate it, because I don't think anyone can guarantee that the results are perfect, but the results are really awesome. They really save a lot of time. They can really benefit a lot of people. And so if you look at it correctly, and we think you should look at it as something that just needs to be somehow checked and controlled and validated, and it's just saving a lot of cycles and a lot of processing time for somebody or something. That's wonderful. These things are kind of the Gen 2 type use cases that we're seeing, where people also are realizing you don't just have one model, because first off, they're expensive. You put it all into the latest and greatest. Second of all, you might not need it. In fact, I had a clever challenge from somebody a week ago saying, well, what if we decide we don't actually need an LLM? We can just do a smart algorithm. And they're 100% correct. We might not even need an LLM. But what's happened is we've all collectively in the industry jumped to this assumption that LLMs will break us out of our status quo. And so people have started thinking about how to innovate in their companies because of these LLM brainstorms. And it might be the right answer in a lot of cases, but it also might not be. You might need a proprietary model. Cartech IQ, they use an open LLM. They have a proprietary AI that they've developed for some of it. Some of it is more machine learning response. It's a combination of factors. We would call that chaining. You might do it to both split your queries into different models, but also to have like a failover in case one is too slow or just offline. Yeah, so that type of compound solution is kind of mandatory. And the ability to do that so in a sophisticated way is one of the Raleigh core functionalities. So that you can do this without affecting your own APIs, without refactoring your software whenever you make these changes. So that's actually a major feature of Raleigh, because we think that's the real world. The company is rational, what they're trying to get out of an AI or machine learning combinations. They're going to understand that these things change, and they change so quickly too, right? Like every week, within a 6 to 8 week window, you probably have to reassess whether you're using the right technology. You don't want to have to go back to your code and rewrite because of a choice you made in 60 days. That's, I think, the reality that companies have to be prepared for. And they have to recognize that this isn't just some widget that you can just slap together because it looks like it's really easy, because you could do it on your laptop at home and test it. This is an enterprise app. It's a web-enabled cloud app. It's going to have people hammering it. You know, we have another client that's 300,000 users hammering their site, and that's a pretty significant volume. So you have to be considering all the types of cloud engineering characteristics, you know, for performance and security. It's a real enterprise app, and that's what Raleigh is pitching, is a real robust technology that's kind of future-proof for you, but done in a way that's extraordinarily simple and easy, so that the approachability and the ease to develop these solutions is very low, because we think they'll be everything.
Got it. Coming up on time here, so one last question. You mentioned humans in the loop. Like, talk to us a little bit about how you see that validation with humans. Is that something that Raleigh enables to be able to integrate, you know, human in the loop processes? Just unpack that a little bit for us.
Yeah. Well, I think it's what we mean is that you shouldn't assume that the model is going to deliver its result right to the consumer. That there's probably a control. We have a client that is working with doctor case notes, and so they're taking the doctor's kind of cryptic shorthand summaries and having that expanded upon LLM so that it's easier to read for the company and for the patient, but the doctor clicks to approve. That's the key functional step there that doctor clicks to approve. And we think that's just a perfect example because nobody should trust one of these technologies, certainly not yet. But maybe the point is maybe never. I mean, there is a certain point where humans have a societal kind of and a legal obligation to one another. And I think that's a great example that makes that example work. If the doctor reviews the clinical notes and approves how those alterations were made, then he's signing off on it. And we think that's an example that companies should always consider for pretty much anything right now. LLMs.